What's up, everybody, and welcome back into the Play the Fight Song College Football Show. I am back in the host seat.
He's back.
A long week. I had absolute FOMO. I know you guys mentioned it on the show, but I absolutely did. I was like, I just want to be in there. And I was doing exactly what you guys said, too. Sitting in a nice restaurant, 5-star resort in Mexico, play the fight song rolling on my phone. That's just
dedication.
How it is sometimes. The wife knows. She knows what she signed up for. So that's how my honeymoon went. But I'm happy to be back. The boys are not all here. Jake is missing an episode. I think he just said last week he's never missed one. He's all in on this. He has nothing to do with his life. And now he's gone. So shout out to Jake. We wish you were here. But JP is here. JP, how are we doing tonight? We ready to reveal our top 25, our first ever as a show?
I am. I think we have a couple episodes left till the start of the season, and we are just trying to squeeze everything we can into these last couple of weeks. So I'm thinking we got to plan it out a little bit better, but I think we're in a good spot right now because it's good that we're releasing this for the first time ever. This is the first full sponsor or full reveal of a Play the Fight Song ranking. So
yeah, it is.
Hopefully people aren't too pissed, but then again, it doesn't mean anything. We haven't played a football game yet.
Listen, nobody gets more angry at the AP poll than us as a group, I would say. And I fully believe in the product that we're about to put out. So it's going to be better. You can throw the AP poll out the window. I even heard rumors that they're going to start showing these rankings on the scoreboard. It could just be rumors. I mean, just throwing it out there. You never know. It's that day and age. But Reese, how are we doing tonight? You ready to talk some college football? We're a week away. Next Wednesday, we'll be previewing college football.
Yeah, isn't it kind of wild? Like, I mean, a couple months ago, we're just you watch Schaefer's ticker slowly go down on these days, and it's like it's right around the corner, man. So I'm excited. I literally talked to my new commander today about. He's like, "Do you think Syracuse is going to be any good?" And I rattled off for like 15 minutes straight talking about the schedule and everything like that. So it kind of feels good to actually be involved and talk about some college football with a team I actually have a rooted interest in.
Before we dive into everything like win totals, I got to give you a couple because I missed last week, and then we'll do the whole 25 reveal. We got to talk on fall weddings. It's a massive topic going around social media today as some guy out there
thought he made it big.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he was tweeting that to make his girlfriend happy or maybe to trying to find a wife, but Fred, the Indiana fan, was not received kindly by the college football world. JP, if you could talk to Fred, what would you say to him?
I just want to know, Fred, who do you think you are? Do you think your opinion rules all? And not to say that like we're anti-fall wedding in the fact that we don't want any part of one, but we will go if we're not going to cut people out of our lives.
We'll be there,
yeah. But just understand where the priorities lie in some certain spots. There's so much downtime at weddings. The phone can be up. We're doing our thing. Fred really thought he did something. And to be honest, Fred, like somebody made a great comment and said, it's probably because you're an Indiana fan and you haven't watched the game since COVID and you had to be inside.
Damn.
It's much easier to miss games if you're watching that squad the last few years.
He really thought he did something, and I get it. And I got people from like full-blown CBS all the way down to like the regular average Joe like us just letting this guy have it. And he really thought he did something, just getting ratioed. And then he replied to someone and thought he had a good tweet. And then somebody got him back. It was like, you can't win here, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to need you against the world, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was never going to win that battle. Absolutely not. Reese, speaking of fall weddings, do you have any this year, or is it just strictly college football?
I have one that's supposed to be next month, but I can't. I'm sorry, I can't swing it. It's just also before pre-deployment stuff. But speaking of fall weddings, I mean, JP and Parks, your good buddy. I had one last year. Our buddy Rick, he had one, and like oddly enough, it's the Red River rivalry game. And like I'm watching it out on my phone, not when the wedding's going on, Rick, of course not. But before it's going on, I look down, I'm watching the game. There's a guy right next to me who has it pulled up too, and just decided to start sharing our phone together. So like, if you're having that fall wedding, just know.
Understand the situation.
Men are watching some football. It is what it is. It's the situation you put yourselves in. It's the hand you were dealt. Deal with it.
The whole situation of the end of the tweet where he said, you're 25, grow up.
That is probably the crazier part of it. Like, grow up. You think people in their 40s and 50s want to be there either? No. they probably want their weekend more than the people in their 20s. People in 20s, 30s, I feel like the ones that will go out of their way for weddings. Once you get like late 30s, 40s, 50s, like, I don't want to go to the wedding. Like, I have no interest in it. Come on. I mean, he just lost in multiple ways.
As somebody whose frontal lobe fully developed 2 days ago, I feel like maybe that would have clicked on that day. It would have been like, you know what? I don't care about football anymore. I just want to be at a random table eating food I didn't select with people I do not know very well, and then possibly have some drinks and meat. No, I don't want to do that. Is it watching football?
Is it worse than the people who say like, and obviously they'd be talking about us in the situation where they say making like sports your whole personality or making it like taking it too seriously? You know, I kind of like, I think about that and I go, yeah, sometimes I do take it a little too seriously and I like let things linger a little bit, like losses or whatnot. But at the same time, there's worse things to be addicted to.
At least you're not crying opening a Taylor Swift record album. It's not even brand new music. You're recording yourself opening a Taylor Swift album and you're in shambles like it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's not even new music. What are we talking about?
It's like people who love Legos, right? Which is cool because you make a lot of money off Legos, right? Yep. But people celebrate Lego kids or Lego adults, right? They're celebrated because their hobby is unique. Well, sorry about it. My hobby is just a little less cool.
You could be a Disney adult.
Yeah, you could be a Disney. Like, they don't get enough. Like, it's just
they
don't get enough hate. Want to bash people
who
weird,
really enjoy
sports.
It's
like,
weird.
Making it your whole personality. Like, you're getting mad after a loss. You can't handle yourself. I'm like, I get that part. Like, I'm getting better at handling my anger, right? But this is my personality in some ways because this is my passion. This is what I do. This is what I love. This is my hobby. I don't color. I don't paint. I don't drink whiskey. I don't do Legos. This is what I do. This is what we love.
I love that. That's a good way to put it. And also the mentioning of Taylor Swift is perfect because I don't think there's a bigger cult of a fan base out there, maybe Texas A&M, but that is kind of a similar way we are with college football. Maybe that will make people who are mad that we're not going to their weddings understand how it is. Like, imagine if Taylor Swift dropped an album this Saturday, you go to her show, you got free tickets, and some asshole is getting married. No, I'm not going either. You wouldn't go either. If she was that big of a Taylor Swift fan, she would miss the wedding. That's just how it is.
Schaefer just sent us a great tweet, but the girl quoted what that guy said and said, marriages end, natties are forever. And it's like, it's hard. That hits.
It's tough.
It's the same thing we said every time we bring up fall weddings. I have not been cheering for your wedding for 23 years. I have not been doing that. I promise you, I don't give a shit. And you are much more likely to end in a divorce than this football team is to disband. That is a promise. that they're always going to be around. So, all right, that's fall weddings. Let's roll into some win totals. I don't want to just ramble on because I'm the only one that you haven't heard from on these. So I'm going to throw out, I have 2 picks here, and then I have my yearly play, which obviously most people will know by now. But I'm going to throw out 2. I'm going to throw out the first one, and then I just want you to tell me yes or no off the rip and kind of give me an argument if you're against it and tell me why you would be for it, maybe, if you can remember anything on the top of your head. But, JP, let me throw a little Boise State over 9.5 at you.
I would say under. I would go under, but I got to see that schedule too. Reese, once you pull that up, you let me know. Here's my thing with Boise State.
I can tell you what it is.
I think they can be talented and like be a playoff team, but so much. 9.5 is a big number.
I know, but if you look at the schedule, it's there for a reason. I mean, they play Wyoming on the road, Oregon on the road. So let's say
you get one.
Wyoming's 50-50. But Oregon, you're going to probably lose. Let's chalk that up as a loss. That's a for sure. So now you have 1 to play with and still hit the over. You get Washington State at home, who is going to take a step back. Oregon State at home, who is going to take a step back. And UNLV is your other big road game, and they're without a quarterback or trying to replace a quarterback that was basically that entire team's offensive production. Those are it. Like everybody else is like Hawaii. Like it's not tough.
You got to avoid that random slip up somewhere in there, which I think every college team, unless you're Georgia,
which is like a Boise State thing in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's like you're going to throw like that. I don't know.
For Boise State,
Malachi and Ashton can get it under. I'm taking the over. I like over 9.5. I think 10 is the floor. I do. I think that team is going to be an absolute unit. Obviously, this might contradict itself because I put another top team in the 25, but we'll learn a lot about him against Oregon, but the schedule isn't there for me to be like, oh yeah, Ashton GT cannot go for 220 against them outside of Oregon. I just think that it's going to be that type of year for the kids. So that would be my first one. Reese, what did you say to it? You would say under or over?
I would feel more comfortable with the under just because I do think you do have that random slip up game in there potentially somewhere. But I don't think the over is absolutely crazy to go because like this is also a team that this is a team I did pick for my G5 to go in there at the end. So like you would like I could see them obviously going over, but I think there could be a random slip up game too. It's also you got to keep GT healthy. You got to keep Malachi Nelson healthy as well too, which is easier said than done sometimes.
Reese, JP, what is this? Is this a poker chip, right?
Yeah, it's right there.
Put that right on my shoulder. That's a chip on my shoulder because I'm riding that one alone. I'll take over 9.5. Give me the Broncos.
I don't dislike it. It's just a weird.
It's an indifferent one. Yeah.
I would
G5 believers.
I could see him winning 11 pretty easily and being the G5 rep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just I don't know.
That's what I'd put it on.
About it. You get one guaranteed, and you can only lose one more. Scares me every time.
I'm glad we have this crew with us tonight, and maybe not the other one, because here's the next one I'm going to throw at you. Iowa State over 7.5.
Kool-Aid. Just kidding.
Under. Taking the under. Don't tell Jake. But this schedule does not have 7 wins on it for this squad. I get it, Jake. I know Jake had him the other day. I think I'm at it.
Does it have 7 or 8?
It doesn't have 7?
I think 7.5. You got 6.
I don't know if there's 7. 6? Here's why. Your road games are West Virginia, Kansas in Arrowhead, Utah, Iowa, and then their home games are K-State, UCF, and Texas Tech. Yeah. Like they didn't get really the slip buys, but those four I just read on the road, the West Virginia, Kansas, Utah, Iowa, that's your 4. I'm going to say 4 losses there, just not for sure. Maybe on West Virginia or Iowa can get greasy sometimes being a rivalry. But outside of those, like you're right on the edge already. I know, Jake. I know. I'm sorry. I'm glad you're not here, but I just don't think they get to it. I don't know. And I'm bet against Matt Campbell before and it hasn't worked out for me, but 7 seems more likely. Like I'm going to put it 90% for 7 wins rather than 8. I think the line is in a great spot, but I got to go under. I hate the road games that they got.
I like where you're at with 7. I think 9 is an absolute stretch. Obviously 8 is they have to be playing really good football. I mean, Rocco did what he did last year, but I mean, now that's a guy that was kind of flying under the radar. I feel like after they had everything that went on last year, you lose Deckers and everything. So, but now it's a team where he's going to be in the spotlight a little more. You're going to be able to figure him out a little better, I think, too, with, coaches having a full year of film on him. So it's just, he's got to be playing extremely good football. Mm-hmm. That defense is going to be solid. I don't doubt that, but it's going to be, what is Rocco going to be able to do to not turn the ball over? He does have, weapons all around him too, but I think I don't know. I think you sit comfortable at 7.
I think getting that Cyhawk game on the road is going to be tough, especially with the production Iowa returns. They're going to be all hyped up with a new OC, maybe a new look. You might see a new quarterback in the mix, depending upon how Illinois State goes for them, right?
Yes.
But if you get that Iowa game, they could be 5-0 heading into week 6. Not if you look at that schedule. If they get that Iowa game, I think they could be 5-0. Like
you're gonna get Jake to hop on the show.
Right there. I don't know.
It sounded like Jake going through the show the other night. They did their fan perspective. Check it out on the channel. And I think JT had them at 8-4, and Jake had them at 9-3. So Jake said this is a 9-win football team.
This is an outside perspective, like with you guys talking about it, because a lot of the Iowa coverage covers Iowa and Iowa State that I listen to and pay attention to, and a lot of my friends are Cyclone fans. So I feel as if this team is getting slept on, but as we get closer to the season, everybody's saying they're their sleeper to win the Big 12. Everybody's saying that they're going to be better than people think. Well, if that's the case, they're not A, a sleeper anymore, and B, they're just good because you think they're going to be good, right? Like we can't have them in that mix now. I just think trenches wise, I think they'll need to get a little bit better. I think they'll get there. Defense will be good again. I think the defensive secondary is really good, especially at the safety position. Rocco's a guy who doesn't feel like one's going to all of a sudden be turnover prone. Then again, I've seen crazier things. You do make a great point with schedule and what their road games are. The Kansas one, you mentioned it was in Arrowhead. I could imagine that being 70-30, 60-40 Iowa State fans, because Iowa State fans love Kansas City.
That'll
They're
be a
there
lot
for
of
the Big
fun
12
to go
tournament
to.
every year. But Morgantown, no joke. Salt Lake City, no joke. Iowa City, no joke. I'm missing one.
I mean,
Or they
those
got
are
five.
Houston.
Yeah.
No, they play Houston on the road too, but I'm not chalking that one
West
up as maybe
Virginia?
a tough game.
Yeah,
West Virginia. But I think it's more of a stretch for them to get West Virginia, Kansas, Utah. I think it's more of a stretch for them to get one of those three than it is for them to lose to UCF at home, K-State at home, or Texas Tech. Like those are more likely losses than I can see them winning those other games.
What'll tell you about just about any Big 12 team this year and their win totals and how everything works out is, do you keep your wins at home? Do you win your home games? If you're not winning home games and you're missing one or two, it gets really tough to win on the road. That is like the Big 12 motto. You have to win games at home, which is why we see it all the time. They just kind of, beat each other up throughout the whole year. You have to win games at home. And Iowa State gets a good UCF team at home. They get a really good Kansas State team at home. Like, you're going to have to win tough games at home, and you got to win all games at home for this to hit, in my opinion. You can't slip anywhere, which is true for all Big 12 teams. But this year for Iowa State, for sure.
All right. There's my two I kind of researched and I dove into: over Boise State 9.5, under Iowa State 7.5. My third one, everybody knows what I'm going to say. Give me Brent Keys over. Doesn't matter what the number is. Don't care what number you
Doesn't
get.
matter.
Georgia Tech is going over.
13.5 alternate total.
Yep.
For a
It
whole
doesn't
season.
matter. Take it.
Take it. Play the fight song line.
Whatever the world thinks they're going to do, they're always one step better. And they're coming back. You see a 5-star commitment? Go to Georgia Tech.
I did see that.
I didn't
Offensive
see that,
tackle.
No.
Bring back the honeycomb helmets because this program's back too.
Back. Hey, I talked about that today on one of the reels I posted. I had Georgia Tech pop up and I said, honeycomb helmets, bring them back.
Yes,
we got
absolutely.
To. Why not?
You have to. Oh, it's such a great look. It is such a great look. But they're coming back. I was just down there. They're redoing the stadium. I mean, it's just a new era. Brent Key, he wins against ranked teams. If you don't know about him, look him up because he wins games that he has absolutely no business being in. Even on the road at Miami, when you're down 6 with 13 seconds left, you still win the games. That's just what Georgia Tech does. So take the over. Doesn't matter what number it is. I assume it's at like 4.5 or 5.5, but they're going bowling again. I promise.
It's 5.5.
Oh, well, take the over. They're going bowling again, back-to-back bowls for Brent Key's Yellow Jackets. So that's my yearly go-to play. I will do that until Georgia Tech is officially reestablished in the top 25, which is going to be soon, by the way. But shout out Yellow Jackets. Those are my 3 over-under win totals. Let's jump to the point of tonight's episode, and let's reintroduce the world to our top 25. The way this worked, we submitted our top 30 teams to JP. He then averaged out, mixed around the list. I assume took some time. So shout out JP for putting this together. But everybody submitted 30 teams. So we have a list of receiving votes teams. And these are the 25 that we got in our preseason going into week 0 rankings. JP, let the people see the list because this is hard work. And I believe it's the only list you'll ever need throughout the rest of the season. The AP poll is going to do their weird stuff, but here it is. So
PTFS poll.
Leading off, we got Georgia. I think everybody in the country would agree with that. I'd find it hard-pressed to find anybody else that would argue otherwise. If you see anything that you dislike with this list, drop it in the comments. Let us know why we're wrong or where a team should be. But I think this list is absolutely spot on. Is there anything, JP, while you were getting this put together that you were kind of like, wow, I'm kind of shocked that he had this team here, or wow, we are high on this team as a show?
Yeah, specifically, I think it's interesting to look where the highest a point for a team is and the lowest point for a team is. Obviously, when you get to like 20 to 25, that's different for everybody. Like that could be somebody has somebody 21, somebody's got them 28. Like that, I feel like that's normal. But in the top 15, top 20-ish, there were some spots that I thought were interesting. We were unanimous at Georgia at number 1. I want that everybody to realize that. So Georgia is number 1. That was unanimous. Ohio State was not a unanimous number 2. They beat out Oregon by 0.5 on the average there. Ohio State was at 2.25, Oregon at 2.75. Correct. Parks, you were the only one to have Oregon at 2. I don't think anybody's going to debate with you too much, but if you want to explain yourself a little bit, because I think that's worth talking about.
Yeah, that decision came down to one simple thing, and I think the only people that would maybe disagree with this is Ohio State fans. I just look at who I feel more comfortable with in the system at quarterback, and I feel more comfortable with the Dylan Gabriel in an Oregon system than I do a Will Howard in a kind of a newer look with more weapons around him. Like, it's going to take some time for him to adjust, but I feel like Gabriel did a similar system at UCF first, and even sort of similar at Oklahoma. And then Will Howard, you just really got to find how he meshes into a new league. And Dylan Gabriel's already been over the place. So I had Oregon at 2, and I'm sticking by that personally, but I'm fine with him at 3. I think the top 4 is pretty unanimous throughout the country, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
We all had the top, or we did not all have the top 4, the exact same. That is of note. But I will say that Oregon at its peak was 2 and at its lowest was 4. So they were 2, 3, or 4 for everybody. Yeah. Reese is the only one to have them at 4.
I'd be interested. Who did he slip into 3? Did you have Texas in the 3 spot, Reese?
Texas.
Okay.
I just lean that way. I think because of, they do have that college football appearance from last year. That defense is their weak point. Shaver always talks about that interior line of theirs. You lose guys, but I just have a lot of faith in Sark and, having Quinn Ewers come back. And also you look at who they have to replace him right behind him in Arch Manning. And then they just went to work in that portal. They got guys all around him. You do lose Baxter. That injury is big. I think when you're playing the bigger teams in that conference or in that schedule, it is going to show up, I do think. Then you did get Bold, and you did get I can't think of the kid from Oregon State off the top of my head. Then you get Nia Black too. You got guys around to replace the AD Mitchell and the Xavier Woods you had last year that I don't think this team's going to skip a beat. And I think they're going to be a top 4 team. I think 1 and 2 you could interchange, and I think 3 and 4 you can legitimately interchange. But I think the top 4 are pretty obvious for all of us.
Yeah, I had Texas at the lowest. I had them at 5. I just like the other teams, I put above them a little bit more. Also with the CJ Baxter news, I didn't love that. I think losing a superstar like that can change games, definitely changes things. I tried to do my best to not rank them on where I think they'll finish everything. I just tried to be as I like this team more than this team right now. I think this team is more talented. This is a better football team than the next. And again, preseason literally means nothing. This is going to change in 2 weeks. But that's what I have there. Also of note, only person to have Ole Miss in their top 4 is me. I had Ole Miss at 4.
That's what I was going to guess. I thought it was going to be you.
Yeah, I bought into them. I'm in. I think they made the right interior defensive changes. Defensive edge pressure, I think, has gotten better. I think they've gotten a little better on the edge and in the back end of the secondary. I think Jackson Dart's a Heisman contender. I think Ulysses Bentley is going to be fine. That's a room I don't feel any worry about that doing it by committee, just with how unique of an offense they run. One of the better receiving corps in the SEC. And to be honest with you, that's just a team I'm high on this year. It's not one I've usually been high on. I think they can now compete with Georgia, with Alabama, and places like that. So anybody have any Ole Miss thoughts? Because I think I was the highest at 4, and the lowest I saw them was at 8 by Jacob. And so with him,
that doesn't shock me. Maybe he can.
I don't think he sees it the same way I do, but I don't think he's anti Ole Miss either. Because I think we all think they're a playoff contender.
One thing that can stick in the back of your head is they were a good team last year, but then when you went on the road to Athens, it was pretty obvious there was still a distinction between these 2 levels of programs. So there's always that factor in people's minds too. It's have you proven it yet? Have you done it yet? It's that's always why people are kind of hesitant to do stuff. This is the year where if they are competitive in those games and they can find a way to compete in Atlanta at the end of the year, then no doubt they're a team that's going to be in everybody's top 5, top 10 for the next couple years.
Reese, you said that perfectly. The only thing you needed to say there was the words "prove it," and I think that's what Jake's probably banking on. Put him in at 8. He's got to see it, because we've said this about Ole Miss before. Look at all these weapons, high flying offense, returning quarterback. Then all of a sudden they give up 72 to Arkansas in week 6, and then we're like, all right, maybe this is just regular Ole Miss. So I think that's where Jake was probably 100%. Leaning towards. But I'm excited about Ole Miss. I think they definitely have another opportunity. We'll see if they can prove it, because that's the best way to put it, Reese. So I like that.
So we have Notre Dame at 6.
This is one I want to talk about, because this was all over social media today too. People are tired of them being ranked in the preseason top 10. Yes. Brandon Walker, everybody knows that name, thought it was blasphemy for them to be talked about. He called Marcus Freeman an average coach. I think everybody had him in the top 10. Obviously, we have him at 6, but like, I don't know the Marcus Freeman hate. Like, he's a guy that's still young in a program. He's taking steps forward. Like, you guys forget they were wrong sub away from beating Ohio State last year, and nobody has arguments about them being in the top 5. Like, Notre Dame's schedule, there's like 4 games on it that are maybe questionable, but they're all 4 winnable for this program. Like, there's a chance they win 11 games this year, if not 12, with the schedule that they have.
Yes. Notre Dame at its highest was at 5. Can we guess who had him at 5?
I'm going to guess it was Jake. He's 100% the Notre Dame homer.
Yep. Correct. It is Jake.
Shout out Max. Shout out Sammy Husko.
They were then at 6 on Reese's and then 7 for me and Parks. Yeah. So they're only at 6. Let me check this number. I think it's pretty darn close with Alabama here on the average. Or them and Alabama are actually tied on the number.
Okay.
Yeah.
And due to this is how I did this. It's probably not a perfect science, but due to Notre Dame getting a higher ranked average vote, or the highest possible vote they've gotten is 5.
Yeah.
They got the bump over Alabama. So
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think that's the right
tracks,
way
man.
So what that tells you is that Alabama is no higher than 5 on any of our lists. They are actually 6 across the board until you get to Reese, who had him at 7. So like we're all right there on Alabama. And I think that's another one that people are going to look at and say, you know, that seems a little low. No, like I still think people are buying into Alabama's going to be really good, and so am I.
God, yeah,
but they can win 10 games and not be a top 5 football team. Like I just the transition to how things are going to go. They're still ultra talented on the offense. It's just a complete reload at the skill positions in most spots. And I'm going to have to see it defensively for that to carry. I just don't want them to have to carry a whole nother team this year.
Can we have a conversation about Alabama fans taking offense to being rated still in the top 10, but maybe not in the top 5 preseason? And they're like, whoa, why are we so low? Give me a break, dude. You're still in the top set. You're in the top 7 teams in college football. You have a decent amount of question marks, including your head coach for the first time in what feels like forever.
Yeah.
Like, this is having you at 7 is respect. Because look where 100%. We have the defending national champion.
Yeah, and that's where are they at in the AP poll, actually, Reese? Where's Alabama and where's Michigan at in the AP poll?
Alabama sits at 5, Michigan sits at 9.
Okay, so we have Alabama 2 spots behind where they are in the AP,
and we have Michigan higher.
Okay, who is the team in the AP that we do not have in the top 10, or how has it worked out? Who is Michigan behind?
Top 10 is Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Florida State. We have Mizzou in there, not Florida State.
But they have Penn State significantly higher than we have.
Penn State at 8. We only have Penn State at 8.
Oh, they have it at 8. Okay,
just one spot. Yeah.
So
there's nothing agreed. It's the only big difference I think is Alabama at 7. Otherwise, everything else is just one number.
Mm-hmm. I think with the questions in Michigan with their offense, like that's fine. You want to run the football the entire time, and you're cool with that identity and how things are going to be handled throughout the whole year. I just don't think this, with those skill players, is the same team that could win a national title like last year's did. Like, there wasn't worries about the offense last year. Like, they lacked some explosion in some spots, but now it's a different quarterback. It's just Donovan Edwards. The offensive line's still good, but you lose a lot of good pieces out of it. The receiver room, I don't think, is as talented as it was a season ago. Correct. So I'm like, I don't think that's a national championship caliber offense. Whereas last year I could have been like, is it like a high end one? No, but it's good enough to win one, as you saw. So that's why I had them lower. I had Michigan personally at 8. Everybody else had them at 8. Jake had them at 7. So like we're right on the money with that. I think we're pretty universal across all of us.
I feel like college football maybe would not be shocked, or a general fan outside of being a Michigan fan. Like, if this team went 8-4 this year, you would not be like, oh my God, what a disappointing year. That's crazy. Like, this team, if they went 8-4, 9-3 after winning a national title, I don't think they'd be in the top 10. Obviously, they wouldn't make the playoff because they probably wouldn't make Indy, but it wouldn't be shocking. No, like, there's that many question marks around this team. And how many games is your head coach going to get suspended for? Probably a few.
They don't. I think they'd be pretty pissed at 8-4.
They would be, but I don't think the college football world would be shocked.
No, I don't. I guess. Okay, I see what you're saying now.
I think too, you have to realize you lose your head coach. You also lost your defensive coordinator, and I believe they also lost your strength and conditioning coach. Did they not? Didn't he also jump ship with Jim to the Chargers?
Yes.
Yes.
It's like those are like that's strength and conditioning. Like we all played college ball. We don't play college football. We play college ball. Like losing your strength and conditioning coach, like that's a big piece of your team that nobody sees behind the scenes. Like that can mean a lot.
Especially
and I mean, yeah, especially and like Jesse mentioned, like that was the top defense in the like one of the top defenses in the country last year. Like that's a massive loss too. So like there's more than just Jim you had to replace there in your quarterback. Like there's a lot going on there, I think, too.
Is it easier to be the top ranked defense in the country if you know what play's coming? Let me just ask you that.
So one would
great point. Great point.
I mean, I've stood up for Michigan more than most people. I feel like you didn't have Michigan. They didn't have Alabama's plays. They still beat that team and they were all world. Like you can know what's coming. Let me change sports. If you're a baseball guy, you can know what pitch is coming and still not hit it. So they still made plays. Like I'll stick up for them a little bit, but you got to put the slightest asterisk next to them until you learn more. I got to. Until I see that Stallions documentary, I got to put the asterisk there.
He ain't telling shit. That's going to be such a fraud.
No, I saw a clip of it, I think. Is it out?
I have no idea when it comes out.
The Aaron Hernandez thing is about to come out.
I've already seen one of those.
We went from sign stealing to murderers.
Yeah.
Let's change the page back. Let's talk about Penn State at 9.
Football, man.
Penn State actually is universal across the board everywhere except Reese, who had them at 10. Everybody else had them right at 9. And on average here, I just want to make note of kind of where the most of the point gaps are when we look at these teams. The biggest point gap within the top 10 between two teams in their spots is actually right here from Michigan to Penn State. 7.75 at average ranking to 9.25 is the biggest jump that we see between two teams.
When's the last time Penn State beat Michigan? I think that's a fair place to put.
I think there's fair questions for Penn State, and I didn't want to put them too high because I have to see the offense get better. I need to see it get more explosive. The defense could be as good as it wants, but they are clearly behind that upper echelon of college football team. And I think there's a clean line. And I'm not saying that there's not a chance that somebody currently outside the top 10 or 15 could win a national title. But what I'm telling you is that in years past, that line's been at 3 or 4. Would you guys say? Right? Like you look at the rankings. I think that line's drawn at 8 and 9 on our list currently.
Yeah, I would think that is probably the best way to put it, if not 7 and 8. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, so I think that's where the drops or the gap is. And my Penn State thinking was I need to see it. They're talented. That's a really good football team. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a football team that I'm going to be putting money on to win national title this year without seeing things get better.
Correct.
I think they're the same thing they're the same thing as if you looked at Ole Miss, but it's like Penn State, but they just have no offense. It's just like Ole Miss. Like they're a team that's good every year in and year out, but this Penn State team doesn't have that offense, so it's easier to kind of have them down with that same kind of prove it attitude because we've seen them in big games. They're 10-2 every single year. They're going to lose the big ones. And it's like, you just haven't seen James Franklin elevate that team to do it just yet. And I don't know. I just don't know if Drew Aller, I mean, we saw him in that, like, I still can't get that throw out of my head last year from that bowl game, but it's like, is this guy going to elevate this offense? Cause you have that running back room and, you did bring in guys on the outside. You got that transfer from Ohio State as well too. So it's like, I just got to see that offense figure it out for them to go any higher.
Ooh, Julian Fleming mentioned. I like that. That's a forgotten transfer there. We might have to do that next week too. There's a lot of transfers out in these damn
new names, new 10. Places.
Reese, right. What do we have Florida State at in the AP poll?
I believe they are 10.
Yeah, they're at 10.
That was right. We're right around the AP in those some spots. I think our biggest differences may come later in the poll rather than the early onset of this thing. The highest Florida State ranking that we had actually was, I believe, was Reese. Reese had him at 9. The lowest Florida State ranking at 16. Parks had him at 16.
Whoa.
Yeah, I feel like the question marks are there, right? Like, you saw that step backs they took without Jordan Travis last year. So you got to feel like DJU can step into those shoes. But we've also seen DJU in a Clemson offense that just could not get to that level. And Jordan Travis was that offense. You're looking for DJU to fill those shoes, and that's the biggest question mark. That most teams have is, their quarterback means everything, especially when Jordan Travis was as good as he was last year. I'm comfortable with Florida State at 11. Doesn't hurt my feelings by any means, but would I have put 17th year Cam Rising in front of him in my personal poll like I did? Yes.
Yeah. I went back and forth with the two teams we actually have 11 and 12 because I have them 11 and 12 in my ranking here. I think Utah is a more complete team. I think the talent level on Florida State is higher. That doesn't make them a better team. It doesn't mean they're going to gel perfectly together, but I think there's more talent on it. So I think right now they're a better team, but I could flip those two and not feel bad about it. Schaefer had Florida State at 10. He then had Utah at 14, which I believe is the lowest we had Utah anywhere. Yes. Which means this is the highest ranked too. Yeah. Highest ranked Big 12 team. Schaefer had him at 14. Not great for the program and the Big 12 guy. Having the highest ranked Big 12 team at 14.
Also, did you guys get the chance to see? I've seen a bunch of top 25s out there. A lot of them are not very good. I mean, most of them are not very good, but ours is very good. But I saw a lot of people having the balls to put Arizona in front of Utah in the preseason ranking. That is a blasphemous move.
That would be ahead of Oklahoma State too, correct? And Kansas State.
Yep.
Most of those. Yeah, I don't see.
It had Arizona as the highest ranked Big 12 team. Insane.
Right now, without playing any games, looking at the talent level and who the team is, I don't think that's maybe somebody just trying to be different. But I think you can't ignore what Utah has right now on both sides of the football and the coaching
and who the coach is. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
I took Kyle Whittingham today. I did the filter on TikTok about building a program. First thing Utah came up, I had any choice of anything, and I go, Kyle Whittingham, the guy knows how to win football games. He's not going to let you down.
Good coach.
You know exactly what you're getting. So that's where Utah is. Clemson, I think, is one that could be the highest riser on our list. I'll say that right now. Them and Miami, I think, could be the highest risers. Clemson on our end here, the highest Clemson ranking anybody had was actually Clemson at 11. Parks, you had them at 11. The lowest Clemson got was Reese. Reese had them at 17.
That's a big jump too, Reese.
Yeah. I had them lower for sure.
I feel comfortable without Cade Klubnik in that national spotlight, just like I talked about when I previewed this team. I really feel comfortable about this. And Dabo is still Dabo. You kind of lose a little bit of traction in the college football fandom world when you don't pick up anybody in the transfer portal because that's the new wave. You're either getting it or getting left behind. Like, he's still an elite football coach, and Clemson would not be Clemson without Dabo Swinney. He'll get them right. He'll get them
100%. Right. I have them winning the ACC, so I do think they get right and they figure things out. I'm not saying they're going to go win another national title, but I'm telling you they'll be in the playoff. I firmly believe that. I think they'll take a step forward enough. Did they lose defensive things? Yes, but that's always a team that's found a way to find guys who are no names, plug them in, and they become superstars on the defensive side of the ball and high draft picks. So that's where Clemson is there. One that I want to talk about, it seems that we are very divisive on this team, probably more than any other. LSU. LSU's highest ranking came from Parks at 12. Their lowest at 18. I had them at 18. So where are they at in the AP poll, Reese? Actually, I'm curious.
They are 13.
13.
I mean, we got to right around it. They are much higher on LSU than some of us. Obviously not Parks. Parks, you had them at 12. Is this an offense thing, or what do you think it is?
I think it's a head coach thing. I think Brian Kelly, he's had his obvious defensive issues at LSU, but if there's anywhere that you can recruit both transfers and high school kids to, and you've shown that you're good at recruiting, because it's not easy to recruit at places like Notre Dame and get good athletes, and he did that for X amount of years, and now he's doing it at an absolute, the definition of a stacked deck at LSU. So it's going to be one of these years he's going to put it together. Obviously, that secondary is your question that you've got to fix. You've got to think they're taking a step forward, right? We said that, I think we had this conversation last year, but they make more sense preseason rating high than Notre Dame does because of the stacked deck that they have in that program.
For me, go ahead, Reese. No, you go, Reese. Go, man.
We got two nice guys.
I'll go. All right, I'll go. Whatever. I was just going to say, I think where I have them at, I think they were like 16 or 17 for me. I just think it's like you talk about, you're thinking about this team right now, and everything you just said is true, Parks. This is a team where you can recruit guys to this place, but it's just, there's still so many question marks on that defense that I think it's hard. They can be top 15 if you put them at 15. But I don't know if they go any higher than that. It's because that defense just has so many question marks. Everything you had last year with that offense, and you couldn't even figure it out just even a little bit. So that's the reason why I had him a little bit lower.
Yeah, I had him at 18 for similar reasons. I think as good as the offense is, offense can be, it's going to be a little worse than last year. Now they're going to get a coaching upgrade on the defensive side, which does help. Like,
Yes, it does.
Like you still got to have dudes to get it to be elite defense.
Oh, they needed that.
50% of defense half the time is just getting lined up and getting guys in spots to succeed, and they weren't doing that much last year. Now, I am not a fan of the defensive front. I am not a fan of the DBs on this team. That is why I have them so low, because if that doesn't improve, and even if it improves slightly, I think the regression on the offense will equal out, and maybe they don't get a couple of the same, breaks they did a season ago, and they're still a top 20 football team because of the talent around it, but it's not a top 15 team to me right now, for sure.
Is this year 4 for Kelly?
3.
Year 3. God, it's still early. Okay. He hasn't even gotten a full class in there yet. Granted, classes are all messed up with COVID. This is the last year of that, but I can hear that, JP. That's fair. I just feel I wondered if they win 7 games, 8 games, obviously they won't be in this 15 spot anymore. Maybe with how the SEC bias, but is Brian Kelly's name floating around anywhere? With it being year 3, I don't think so. That's why I didn't ask.
It's also a lot of faith to put in a guy who has never been the quarterback for your team for a full season yet, too. Like Garrett Nussmeier, like, it's a lot of faith in the guy. Like everybody's high on him, but like, it's how DJU was at Clemson. Like everybody was super high on him, and he just didn't pan out, unfortunately.
If he can stay healthy, it's kind of like the McNamara situation at Iowa, JP. If he can stay healthy, you have to think good things are going to happen, because it was, I believe, through 3 weeks he had thrown for like 900 yards. It was something ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So if he stays healthy, maybe that offense can, substitute for that defense, and they can win 63 to 45 games.
Something.
Let's jump to the next 4. I kind of want to bundle into one here.
Yep.
Miami, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. Now, did the AP have Oklahoma above Oklahoma State? I feel like they did not.
I don't think they did. I think it was
Miami was 19, Oklahoma was 16.
Did we have Oklahoma State above Oklahoma or not?
16. So 16 through 19 of the AP is Oklahoma at 16, Oklahoma State at 17, Kansas State at 18, Miami at 19.
Okay, so
we have Miami. I thought that was pretty close. So we have Miami and Kansas State ahead of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. They are all just flipped in this 4 little box quadrant here. I like ours more. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that Miami at its peak would be a better team than Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. I think Kansas State at its peak is a better team than Oklahoma State. Oklahoma is the one I could argue between Kansas State here. I think if Oklahoma hits its stride and plays well on offense, it's a better team than Kansas State in some spots, because that defense is really good. Right now, I still haven't seen it, which is why I have them behind Kansas State, which I think is going to be a little more of a proven product, even with a new quarterback there. So I like that 4 quadrant here and how we flip those with the AP. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
I'm comfortable with Oklahoma being where they're at behind a K-State and Miami. You may say that's crazy. Oklahoma recruits at such a different level. But if you look at Oklahoma, I think out of those 4, they are in the worst spot to be competitive within their league. Like if Oklahoma they're going up against the Texas, they're going up against the Georgia, the Ole Miss, the Alabama. How many teams within the same conference do we have Oklahoma in? Like they belong behind those 2, because Miami and Kansas State are in better spots to win their conference than Oklahoma is, even if they have a successful year, and Oklahoma State. So I would be even okay with the Pokes in front of Oklahoma in my mind.
Yeah. Reese, your thoughts on that little 4 quad there before we jump to the 20 through 25?
I just think I like how you broke this up into just this 4, because I think it's a lot of fun. Like this Miami team, I talked about it before when we did the ACC preview.
And we're buying in. We are bought in.
It's just better for college football, I think, when this is a brand for it. I mean, sorry, Sam Huska, but I think we all remember watching that Miami Notre Dame game in Notre Dame when the turnover chain became like the most famous thing on the planet for that entire football season. Like it's a fun brand. And I think you got Cam Ward, you got Damien Martinez, you get everybody in around him. I just think it's an interesting team. It's also, you're looking at where they're at right now. And I also think this team by the end of this year could be a team that could crack a top 10 as a chance to play for a college football playoff too.
I like that. Maybe a little 1994 revitalization of college football. Maybe Miami, Nebraska back in the top of the mix. I like that, Reese. Good call.
One thing to know. Last thing to note on this little quad box here, we have Miami 0.25 average spots higher than Kansas State. They jump from Kansas State to Oklahoma is 0.75. And then from Oklahoma to Oklahoma State is 1.75. So there's a gap there.
Bigger jump.
100%. Miami, which I was shocked on this. I had Miami the highest. I had them at 14, which is actually kind of more close to where they landed. The lowest ranked Miami we had on here I believe was Parks at 7 or nope, sorry, Reese at 19. Reese had him at 19. So he talks a big game, but he had him lower ranked than most of us.
So and that's fair though, Reese. I mean,
but I'm saying, but I answered that it's fun that they're at 16. I said it's fun that they're at 16. I didn't say I agree with them. I think it's fun.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's all preseason hype based. Like there are so many question marks. Now, not to mention their coach and making general coaching decisions is a question mark alone. So that's safe.
Yeah, I also think that a lot of what we're looking at, Parks, like everybody ranks their top 25 differently.
Yes.
You do it differently than I do. I'm looking at a different thing than Reese is. I'm also looking at a way different thing than Jacob. I think that's just how we look at him. 20 through 25 is no man's land. Like we are all so very different on who he had it 20 and 25. I believe we're having some little technical difficulties right now. I apologize, fellas. But let me just jump into the middle here. Sorry, everybody. It looks like we have some storms rolling through the Midwest, so it's looking like people are starting to get clipped by that. But just talking about the top 25 here, to be honest with you, there's a couple things where they're in the AP. I'm not too terribly fond of what it is, right? A lot of times with the AP guys, they're going to cover one or two teams, and then they'll just start putting people in, plugging them into spots. I also think with the AP poll, there's a lot of guys who just don't watch everybody in the country. So we try to really pride ourselves on that aspect of it. We try to watch all these teams and pay attention to their team websites, their beat writers, and guys that are there all the time and kind of get a feel that way. We also watch a ton of college football season or during college football season, I'm sure, as you guys have. Another thing here, as Reese comes back in, Reese, we had some, you both dropped.
I don't know what happened. I think the internet went out.
Yeah, I think you had an issue. I think Parks is getting those storms pretty bad over there in the Midwest that are heading my way. What I was just saying is that it's very interesting to always look at us four and how we rank teams. Like we all do it so differently. I do it different than you. You do it different than Parks. Parks does it different than Schaefer. Like we all have a different way of ranking teams, and that's really interesting to kind of look at. I don't know what your thoughts on that might be.
Well, it's just different perspectives. I mean, it's what you value in a team because it's your Iowa football. You have a different background compared to somebody who is, and trying to take a high flying offense like an Ole Miss this year. Like you just have kind of different backgrounds on like what you value teams or whatever. Parks, good to see it back, buddy.
What an absolute mess
something happened. It happened to me too, man. It's all right.
You both dropped.
Stick around, people.
Did I come back on? Quick question. Did I come back on at all?
No, I don't think so.
It had me in the studio. I it said you guys were gone. I put myself up there and I'm like, wow, I don't know what happened.
Wait, I was doing the same thing.
I'm talking to nobody.
So it was a StreamYard thing.
It was 100%.
I don't know what
that's the first hiccup we've had because I was doing the same thing. I was
StreamYard. God damn.
But I did the exact same thing.
All right, we're back. Where are we at? We're doing 20 through 25, right?
Yep, 20 through 25. I was just saying how it is completely crazy how different everybody's 20 through 25 was. How about I could go 20 through 30 for all four of us and how different it was.
I just think your 20 through 25, you make more fun.
JP, let's do this. Since we have the 25 up there, the 20 through 25, you can see. Let's give who was receiving votes. Do you have it in front of you? If not, I do.
I do. Okay. I have 26 through 32. Receiving votes. Now, these are teams that one of us had ranked somewhere or multiple of us, but not enough on the average ranking to get into the top 25. Number 26, I thought this was surprising. Iowa State at 26. They were 0.75 off of the 25th slot. Virginia Tech, Liberty, Boise State, Appalachian State, Tulane. I believe that is all of them.
For fair warning, I'm just realizing what I did here. I'm going to put Iowa State. I'm going to switch my bet to over 7.5 because I definitely had them in the top 30. But they could slip. If they slip, they're not going over.
You could win 7
barring any injuries.
We've seen it. We've seen it. I think the A&M one's different for me. I had A&M up at 20. I think the lowest I saw A&M on anybody's was 25. Reese, you had him at 25.
Yeah, I had him lower. I thought I did.
Yeah, that's got to be a prove it situation. First year head coach, understandable.
Same thing. Yeah.
Arizona at 20 stunned me. I did not have Arizona even in my top 25.
That's a little blasphemous.
Yeah, I had them at 27. I think they're good. I think there's more talented teams above them, and I had to give Memphis the nod. I think the only person to not have any G5s in theirs,
probably Jake.
Actually, Reese and Jake. Neither one of them had
G5 haters.
I thought I had Memphis at 25. But
nope, you have Memphis at 30. So nice try though.
Wow. Never mind.
Cool. Yeah.
Hand up.
So this Hannigan disrespect.
I think I think being stunned at Arizona at 20 was the biggest thing. The 21 through 30, you could have shuffled it any way, and I would have been fine with it and probably would have accepted any of it. Parks, you had the most G5s ranked. You had Memphis at 24. You had then had Liberty at 26, App at 28, and Tulane at 30.
G5
so
guy.
You were very respective of it.
Yes.
Liberty only appeared in Jake at 30. Then again, for Parks at 26, nothing out of me or Reese. They're good, but I just can't give a lot. I don't know. Something about that team I just can't get behind.
I would have been comfortable flipping out App State and Boise State. I feel like both of those teams are kind of in similar spots to maybe steal a bid to the playoff. I am fully aware that I was probably the only one to not have Iowa in my 25. I had them at 26. And that is just because of the quarterback situation and what I've seen at the beginning of fall camp, JP. But I'm comfortable with where they're at. I think that's safe just because of the defense. But it's kind of a prove it situation on offense with the new offensive coordinator and the quarterback situation. If they came out with Brendan Sullivan against Illinois State, I would be fine with them at 23, and I would probably put them there.
USC not popping into our top 25 as well was interesting.
All you podcast listeners, 20 is Arizona, 21 is A&M, 22 Kansas, 23 Iowa, 24 Louisville, and 25 Memphis.
Yeah, correct. And also, if you're listening on podcast, follow the page. You'll see it before you even listen to the episode. This graphic's going up tonight, so you'll be able to see it and kind of understand what we're talking about.
Yeah. Are there any other ones you guys wanted to talk about that you've seen on here, receiving votes wise, teams that maybe didn't make it?
I love that we got Memphis in here. I was very nervous that not enough people were going to get them. Like the average wasn't going to be there because this team deserves it. This is my group of 5, like kind of my pick, my lock to go to the college football playoff. I think Seth Hannigan is way too much in that offense with that schedule, and that conference is going to run shit. And that is the polite way to put it. So I'm glad they got in there because I think they're going to stay.
Yeah, their highest ranking was 24 and their lowest ranking being 30 on ours.
Who had them at 30? Jake?
Reese.
No, he didn't have a group 5. Oh, yeah, damn it.
He's saying
come on, man.
25.
Seth Hannigan. Jake should have him at number 2. Does he remember what Seth Hannigan did to that team?
Let me change it. Jake did have Memphis at 28. I just read right by it. He had him at 28.
Thank God.
Yeah, calm down, Shave.
Yeah,
I would like to say honorable mentions. SMU. I didn't say them in receiving votes. They got 2 votes here, one at 29 and one at 27. Correct, Reese. Right at 27, you had SMU. I think that's a team that could end up in your top 15 if everything goes right. If they are perfect in the ACC and fit right in, I also think it's a team that could end up 7-5 if things don't work out just with that conference jump. So that's the difference there. Louisville, I'm not super high on. I'm not bullish on it. We have to stay healthy at quarterback. If Tyler Shuck's not healthy and Louisville is
question mark.
It's tough sled for me. One more question. I don't know, Parks, time-wise, if you wanted to jump to the possible discussion question I had. If not,
we're perfectly good on time. So go
ahead.
Our
show, man.
Okay, perfect. This one more thing before I bring that up, I kind of wanted to touch on here. One team that we have in our current Play the Fight Song top 25 that is ranked 15 and down.
Okay.
That now I said earlier where I think the line is on national championship good, but 15 and down that could win a national title. Is there one?
Yeah, I think it's between 8 and 7 for sure. And maybe even to be heard 7 and 6 with the question marks around Alabama. But I do not see Michigan in a scenario to win a national championship back to back. And all the teams behind them have 1 or 2 spots with questions. Honestly, probably Utah's the team I feel best about stealing that maybe 4 spot as a Power 4 conference champion and getting kind of a easier path to the national title and getting coached and willed to winning one somehow, some way. It's not going to happen, but I would feel better with them than the 3 teams in front of them, to be honest with you. So I'm going to say finally 8 and 7. That would be my split. 7 and down, I can see your national champion is within there.
I'm stupid. And I flipped it as.
No,
do you think
no.
Do you think there's anybody on? I was like,
It's
isn't it 15 and
through
higher?
25. Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Oh, I thought he was talking about 15 and under, like 15
I was
through
like,
1.
am I stupid? Like, I just let Parks go on a roll.
Wait, I thought you meant 15 down, like 15, 14, 13, down between
I meant like
15s to 1.
lower ranking, higher number.
It's an old opposite thing where it's like a higher seed is actually the 1 and a lower seed is actually like the 8. So
all right, so between their national champions,
15 to 25,
16
I just
and
want to
17.
throw out a hypothetical. 16
and 17. That's my answer.
Okay. Reese, do you have
one? I mean,
you had to pick one.
It's crazy that it's going to be teams. It's hard to do it because it's teams that haven't even done anything. Like K-State's the closest one, but it's like your eyes go towards Miami and A&M too. But it's like they haven't done it recently, so it's a really big prove it year, especially with having Elko being a brand new head coach there. But I think your eyes go to Miami, K-State, and or A&M. But there's just so much ahead of A&M. With that, I mean, with it being Elko's first year and being in the SEC.
Not to mention they open with Notre Dame.
Yeah, no kidding. And then I think Miami is the most fun one. We just talked about it before too, but it's also, can they finally put it all together and have the, they can't put together any losing weeks. You have to be perfect, through the whole way through. You can go get a 10 seed, an 8 seed, or a 9 seed, but you still got to be playing solid football to get there. But I think that's where your eyes go if you're looking at our rankings.
Yeah. Also, if I'm picking a team within that I think can actually make a run at it, like I did with Utah, dumbly, Oklahoma State's got to be in that conversation, right? Gundy's squad with the way he returns. Best offensive line in America, to quote JP.
But Bowman that's so tough.
Yeah.
Like
the ball to Ollie Gordon 65 times a game.
Yeah, but Georgia can scheme up to like, hey, let's make Bowman beat us. They can make I
don't want to hear about the non-2023 playoff Georgia Bulldogs over Mike Gundy's squad. My Pokes they were inches from the playoff. They got to steal a bid.
I think the only team 15 through 25 is Miami. Wow. I think there's bigger question marks out everywhere else. 15 LSU with the defense. Avery Johnson, is he going to be that good? Oklahoma, is Jackson Arnold going to be as good as they need to be? Is it going to be that explosive? Oklahoma State, is Alan Bowman that great? Is the defense going to be elite? Like, we could go all the way through these.
One, Reese, don't forget about Zane Flores. He could be playing quarterback at Oklahoma State by the end of the year. Two, are we insane for having the conversation, or is it just the day and age of college football we're in that Miami is a national championship contender? This team has been bad for as long as Nebraska's been bad. That they haven't done anything in that amount of time. Now we're like, they're probably going to get in there.
The talent.
I know, but Cam Ward.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing every year, though, man.
It's a Cam Ward and Damian Martinez effect is enough to be like, damn, get this team.
I think it's like if you're looking at Florida, like Florida State was what they were last year too, but I mean, can we argue that Cam Ward might be a better quarterback than DJU? I don't think DJU.
We're not arguing. We are saying that loudly.
Yes. Okay, yes. The interception crowd, get the fuck out of here. Do you know who's throwing to at Washington State?
Because do you think DJU really elevates that team? Like if they are in a big game, I don't think DJU elevates that team the way if Cam Ward is in a big game, I think Cam Ward can elevate that team so much more than DJU can.
I also think Miami's not just the skill guys. I think they're better on the offensive and defensive line, like way better. Like everybody that I'm listening to and hearing from is saying they're NFL body types up and down the offensive and defensive line. The DBs are gotten a lot better. Like they have everything other than the results right now. And I think that's why people are so high on them to win the ACC is because like schedule's not that tough. And if these body types play anything true to form, like there's no reason they shouldn't be playing in Charlotte.
Got to go on the road week 12 to go beat Syracuse in the Dome, though.
It's true.
Tough sledding, boys.
It's true.
Okay. All right. That's I like that. JP, is that the discussion topic that you had, or was there a different discussion?
I had one. Yeah.
Let's go to that because there's the top 25.
Okay. Perfect. Let's jump to this. Now, I thought about this yesterday while listening to SV Pod. Shout out Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve. They're just fun to talk to. They didn't actually ask the question, but they kind of like danced around it. Here's my question. If there was still a Pac-12, full Pac-12, and we had the same playoff format right now, if you were a Pac-12, the Pac-12 champion or the Big 12 champion, I would assume those teams are fighting over the 4 or 5. If you were one of those teams and it came to, hey, bracket reveal time, what are we going to be? Fingers crossed. Do you want the 4 or do you want the 5? That's my question.
Oh, you always take the 4, right? Because you assume that both of those teams played in conference championship games. Then you give yourself a week off, a bye, before you go play an elite opponent. Because either way, you're going to be playing somebody good. But that week off, because both of those teams are playing in the conference championship game, yes? So you got to take the 4.
Do you think it's that easy?
But is there an argument to the 5 where it's like if you're on that, but if you're on the 5, then you also have to go potentially play the 1 earlier. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think with the way the brackets line up, so you got to play somebody tougher earlier. Which, granted, if you got to beat the best team anyway, if you're going to win the national title, but still,
that's just what I was about to say. Yeah, that's a fair question, but I don't know.
Play each other in the quarterfinals, whether you were the 4 or the 5. The 5 and 4 would play in the quarterfinal if the 12 didn't win that game. So, yeah, question is do you want to knock the rust off a little bit and play that probably G5 at home? You get Boise State, you get Liberty, you get Memphis at home, and then you would play a neutral site against the 4. Or do you want the rest after a conference title, because both these teams would have played in a conference title, and then you basically have bye a week or so, and then play that 4 or 5 seed?
I feel like the Big 12 would tell you they'll take the G5 game with no problem, and they would rather prefer that way. But I feel like the Pac-12 would give you a different answer. You got to think of the G5 teams. Maybe they're consistently playing in the non-con. You're at Oregon, you're at Washington, you're going to play a Fresno State, which is not a team that if they're making the playoff, and absolutely not a team I would want Nebraska running into. Like, I don't want any piece of the top G5 team. Like, it's you're supposed to win. It's a lose-lose situation. You're supposed to win.
Be mad if they got the 5? Like, do you think like Oklahoma State? Actually, this is a great question for Jake because he's the one guy that would run into this problem in this hypothetical scenario. If Iowa State just won the Big 12 title, and let's just say Oregon just did, and Oregon's a Pac-12 champ, Iowa State the Big 12 champ, do you think he's sitting there like, and let's just say they both have a fair shake at it. They're both like 11-1, really good wins. Like, it's a legit toss-up to who gets this 4 or 5. Do you think he would be rooting for the 4 or 5 any differently, or you think he'd be like, whatever, let the chips fall where they may?
Knowing our buddy Shape, I feel like he'd rather have the 4, because also this is just my brain all of a sudden. But you got to think about if I'm Iowa State as a 4 seed or 5 seed hosting a playoff game in December in Ames, Iowa, that's going to be a cold football game. Like, that is, you're great. You're going to sell out.
An advantage.
But like, it's a hell of an advantage. I'm saying that, but it's also, you got to think about it is a very cold football game. Injuries, like, there's that concern compared to like if I'm USC hosting a playoff game in December. Yeah. They could give a shit. It's Southern California. Like, Ames, Iowa is different than that location. It's like,
and it could be an advantage. It could be a disadvantage, not a disadvantage, but it could be an even playing field depending upon who gets the bid.
Yeah. Yeah. You go go like that Farmageddon game last year where it's a snow game and you get, I don't know, who the hell your 5 seed goes and plays Boise State or an App State. And it's like, just throw everything out, man. It's a weather game.
Yeah, that was my question. I thought it'd be contentious since the spot. I thought everybody would have a different view on it. That's why I had it written down, because like spur of the moment, I'm like, I don't know. I actually had to think about it for a little bit.
But all right, I like that. Let's wrap up there. It's a shorter episode tonight. We covered our top 25. Obviously, we'll update that throughout the year. Don't expect a ton of movement after week 1, although 2 of those teams do match up. We do have a Notre Dame A&M matchup in week 1 of this season. But the first game up, I don't want to say first game up because there's 4 games that day, and we're going to preview all 4 next week 0 games, all 4 of them, including the Delaware State matchup. We'll throw them in there because there's only 4 college football games. But week 1, we will see A&M and Notre Dame. That will be an absolute barn burner and good television for everybody to take in. But that's everything. One thing we did not do is tell you to subscribe and tell you to like the video. It is very, very important for you to like the video. We want to know that you're out there. If you're watching on replay, you fast forward to this just to see what this show's about. Hit the like button right now. If you like college football, you'll like us. I promise you that. Shout out to our partners at No Rivals. JP, Iowa is on No Rivals live right now.
Officially.
You have every No Rivals Iowa hat on the way to you. So it's very big news.
Shout out those guys.
That we
I
have
told my friends, told everybody. I said, hey, here's what they look like. Here's how to get them. Here's the website URL. Here's their pages so you can see their updates. Like, I've sent it to everybody.
And what is the code they're using to get free shipping?
PTFS.
I love that. Okay, so there is No Rivals. Check it out today. ShopNoRivals.com. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping. We'll take care of it for you just to get a clean hat before the season starts. Order it now. You'll get it before week 1. So shout out to our partners at No Rivals. They are adding new teams every day, and there are some more teams coming. It could be yours. So request your team on their website today. Shout out to No Rivals. Like the video, subscribe. Reese, what should they do to all of our channels?
Like, comment, subscribe. Just hit the follow button. It doesn't hurt you. It helps the page. You get more content out of us. The more of you that follow us, the more content we're going to push out, the more laps you're going to have, the more stuff you're going to learn.
I love that. But all right, that is episode 61 in the books. We will see you next week for our week 0 preview. We are less than 10 days now away from college football when you're listening to this. Shout out to you guys. We love you. We'll see you next time. Why don't you take us away,
where
Reese?
you at? Jake, where you at? I'll do it.
Know.
Play it.
Oh, no. My computer's spinning.
We're still rolling. It's still live.